Have you ever had someone suffer from such a wretched disease such as bone cancer? You or anyone you know could get it at any time in your life. On top of that, there is not enough money for scientific research to find a cure for both primary and secondary bone cancer. This reason alone is why we need to go out and raise money for bone cancer research so scientists can find a cure and save more lives. If we don't, people are going to keep suffering this horrible disease, and we can't keep taking that risk. There are two types of bone cancer. Primary, which is the rarest of the two, and it begins in the blood-forming cells in your bone. And secondary, which is the most common, and it begins from another cancer, such as breast, prostate, thyroid, or any other cancer that can spread to the bones, according to the Bone Cancer Research Trust, BCRT. No one really knows how or why bone cancer exists or what causes it. According to the American Cancer Society, in 2012, 2,890 new cases of cancer of the bones and joints will be diagnosed, and there were about 1,410 deaths from these cancers in the same year. The best strategy to diagnose these symptoms early is to just be alert of the signs and symptoms of this disease. It's important to pay attention to the signs and symptoms because the survival rate is 5 years from when the cancer is found, and that's just a positive way of looking at the statistics. The sooner the bone cancer is found and treated, the better the chances are of you fighting it. If you got bone cancer, wouldn't you want your doctor to diagnose you with the right cancer and know the exact treatments to kill the cancer? There is no exact treatment. That's why we need to go out and raise awareness through educational outreach and raising money for the American Cancer Society. The types of treatments depend on how aggressive the cancer is, the type, location, and whether it's invaded your bones or not. Treatment also has to do with the patient's age and general health. Treatment works in some bone cancer cases, but not all. The BCRT stated that treatments for primary and secondary bone cancer are very different. Treatments can become resistant to cancers as well. In some cases, the American Cancer Society says that the reason treatment can become resistant is if you've had an advanced type of breast, prostate, thyroid, or any other cancer that can spread to the bones. Those cancer cells in your bones will look and act just like the cancer that you have or may have had, which means that those cancer cells in your bones are going to be treated the exact same way as the cancer that you did have. Actual bone cancer itself is not being treated. And if a doctor tries everything that he can to kill the cancer and nothing seems to work, then that individual has two options. First, they can try a new treatment, which isn't guaranteed that it will work or improve the individual's health. And second, they can start thinking about hospice care. When someone goes into hospice care, that generally means that there's nothing more a doctor can do and they're just there to be kept comfortable. This is the time for the individual to have their family come visit and reflect on memories. In the chart provided by About.com of the admissions in 2005, nearly 46% of those patients were cancer patients. And unfortunately, hospice care is generally the end and where the person will likely pass. This does not have to be anyone's fate. Go visit a hospice care facility, sit with these sick individuals, and let them tell you about what they've been through. Some of these sick patients in hospice care, they don't have families that come and visit them, and they're dying alone. Take those stories and share them with others that you know. Hearing the story of someone who's been battling bone cancer and how much pain they've been in will open one's eyes and will encourage them to want to help. Bone cancer is an excruciatingly painful cancer, which eats away the bone marrow and causes your bones to become brittle and fracture. BCRT explained that the tumor on the bone compresses the nerves and blood vessels and causes the person to live every moment and agonizing pain. My grandpa suffered a grueling 4 years with bone cancer. In a personal interview with my grandma, she told me he did chemotherapy, hormone patches, and blood transfusions. After 4 long years of fighting bone cancer, he finally lost his battle. He had been admitted into a hospice in Florida. When I saw him, my heart came to a halt. His entire body was so swollen from retaining water, I didn't even recognize him at first. But I held back my tears. I smiled at him, and he looked back at me and said, "Hey, do you want to go play volleyball?" Did not leave his room for hours after that. I didn't want to miss a second of conversation with him. And I grabbed his hand softly, and he flinched. And that's how much pain he was in. The nurses came in after a while to check on him, and when they lifted up the covers, he was completely black, no circulation from his waist down. My sweet grandpa had no feeling, no circulation, and no oxygen going to his legs. The next day when we went to see him, he was a completely different person. There was no life to him. He couldn't move, talk, eat, or even sit up. He couldn't hold my hand one last time. You know what? The worst part about it is when his eyes were glazed over, and we were told by the nurses that it wouldn't be long before he passed. My heart dropped, but I knew that it was the best thing to say my goodbyes so he didn't have to suffer anymore. Shortly after we got home, we got the call that he had passed. And I strongly believe that if there was more money going to bone cancer, then my grandpa would still be alive today. Not only did my grandpa pass away from bone cancer, but my counselor's daughter did as well in her mid-teens. In an article from the Houston Chronicle dated March 31st, 2009, Mrs. Zimmel stated, "This is one of the most horrific diseases that anyone could get. There's chemotherapy, amputations, and major surgeries. This usually metastasizes into their lungs, and it's like piece by piece, their life is being surgically removed from them. This is why we need to raise money and awareness so that no one else in this world has to suffer from bone cancer like my grandpa or Mrs. Immel's daughter did." I spoke to you today about bone cancer to ask you to please help me raise money for bone cancer research. I hope the information and stories that I shared with you today will help you realize how bad these bone cancer patients and their families need you. Sign up to Walk for a Cure, donate money to the American Cancer Society or Bone Cancer Research Trust, BCRT, and spread the word to others, please. We need to find a treatment or even a cure for bone cancer so that no one else has to die and suffer from this horrible, horrific disease. Help raise money. People with bone cancer need you.